While we're eagerly awaiting the release of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 and 4 Remastered as of April 2025, I previously stepped back to the early 2000s to do retrospective reviews of the original two games. I got such a positive response to both videos that I decided to review other games in the series. In this video, I'll be doing my final PS2 retrospective on Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, with some footage from reTHAWed for the story mode due to issues I had emulating the PS2 version. You can watch this video for more info. American Wasteland brought some promising ideas to the series, but it also felt like the beginning of the end. And in this video, we'll answer the most important question. My name is OneHip, and thanks for clicking on this video. Also be sure to watch my other Tony Hawk's retrospectives if you haven't already, and thank you to those who watched the videos so far, and those who've subscribed to the channel. It's truly much appreciated. And for those who are new, welcome. Anyway, let's go. Tony Hawk's American Wasteland was released on October 18, 2005 in the US, and October 28th of the same year in Europe, on the PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. The game is also notable for being a launch title for Microsoft's second ever console, the Xbox 360, and the port was released on November 22, 2005 in the US, and December 2nd in Europe. A Nintendo DS and Game Boy Advance version of the game called American Skateland was released on the same day as the console ports. A PS2 Collector's Edition, exclusive to North America, was released with 80s Hawk and 70s Alva as exclusive skaters, and exclusive levels Atlanta and Marseille, as well as a making-of documentary and concept art. And you can play all of this and more in the modded Tony Hawk's American Wasteland PC version called reTHAWed. Speaking of PCs, a port for the PC was also released on February 6, 2006. And like I mentioned, you can play a community-made modded version of the game on PC called reTHAWed, which uses game mechanics from American Wasteland, with online play and many levels and skaters from the franchise that you can play with. American Wasteland was developed by Neversoft and published by Activision, and it was the first game in the series to have support for Xbox Live. For my gameplay footage, I played the PS2 version of the game that I have the disc for through my PC via emulation, with PCSX2, upscaled to 1440p, as I originally wanted to review the game in its original form before my issues that I had with it. I'll leave a link in the description with where to download PCSX2 for this and other PS2 games that you might want to emulate. I also played the story mode through reTHAWed, which resolved all of the issues from the PS2 port. So you'll see a mix of the two versions in this retrospective, and you'll probably be able to tell which one is which by looking at them. As well as sticking with the original Tony Hawk's formula with some new abilities, American Wasteland's gameplay takes influence from third-person action games at the time, like the GTA series. And the cutscenes reminded me of games like that, especially the barbershop, which we've seen in San Andreas. I like the comic book style of certain cutscenes, and it gives it a very nice and colourful aesthetic. The game itself is probably the easiest I've played in the series, and there was never a moment where I really felt challenged like other titles. As well as other features introduced previously in the series, new additions include the introduction of bicycles to perform BMX tricks, as well as BERT slides, bank transfers, rail stalls, and flips and rolls on a skateboard. Wall jumps and sticker slaps are now separate tricks rather than replacing one another like in previous installments. A modified version of the balance meter was included that added red and green markers, where the player is required to land on the green marker so that they can get out of their combo, otherwise they'll bail if they go out of the red area. You can also smack people with your board and throw it at them, which could be seen in other Tony Hawk and non-Tony Hawk games later on. Another notable addition was the introduction of parkour maneuvers, which ditched a board or bike altogether. These include front and back tucks, basically front and back flips, shimmying edges, and wall runs. I didn't really do these after the tutorials, as you can do a lot with the board, and I felt like it really killed the momentum when trying to do these in conjunction with skateboarding tricks. You can also tag walls like you could in Underground 2, and you can add them to a combo. American Wasteland was the first game in the franchise that advertised an open world of sorts, with loading screens into new areas being masked by traversing through long lobbies in between locations.
New Tony Hawk's American Wasteland, the first skating game with no loading screens.
I did notice some frame drops during these sequences on both the PS2 and reTHAWed versions, which I'm guessing is the game loading into the new map. Despite this claim, it's not open world as the devs once claimed, but I appreciate them being ambitious and trying something new. A more refined open world formula would be added to other Tony Hawk's games in the series, and it would also be mirrored in other series such as Skate, which I'll be doing retrospectives on very soon. The levels in American Wasteland are all set in a miniaturized version of Los Angeles, and the main areas include Hollywood, Beverly Hills, Skate Ranch,
downtown. Things will be great when you're
East LA, and Santa Monica. Other areas include Van's Skate Park, Casino, and Oil Rig, the latter being a throwback to Pro Skater 3, which had this level in the Xbox version of the game. In Classic mode, you can unlock the Ruins, which is the remnants of what used to be Los Angeles, and from Tony Hawk's Underground 2 remix on PSP, Kyoto, and Atlanta. I wouldn't call them levels necessarily, so for the purpose of this video, I'll call these parts areas, as it all appears to be one open map. The areas are even larger than in Underground 2. In 2005, Game Informer showcased a map with an insert of an overhead view of Boston from Underground 2 with one American Wasteland area, and it was 3/4 the size of most of them, except for Van's Skate Park and Casino. Just to give you an idea of how big these areas actually are. My favourite level would have to be the post-apocalyptic-like East LA, as it stands out amongst others which look a bit samey, with visual themes really making the difference for some of them. And there are some great lines you can perform in East LA as well. My least favourite level, despite being a pivotal part of the story, is Skate Ranch. I respect the building something cool storyline, but Skate Ranch has no flow to it, and I didn't want to spend time there outside of the missions, to be honest with you. Overall, it's difficult to classify each area as a level, as the main aim was to make THAW open world like I mentioned before, but the areas were generally okay, but not really memorable like other installments. You start story mode with either easy, normal, or sick difficulty. And for another first in the series, a HUD map with indicators for locations guides you to things like missions, formerly known as goals, doing tricks for homeless people for cash, which is interesting, and tagging walls also for cash, as well as BMX missions, once again, also for cash. I don't know what they were thinking by letting you learn tricks throughout the entire campaign, as when you start the story you can't even manual, which stops you from free roaming for a bit before doing missions. In other games you already had very basic skills like manualing, and you don't even unlock special tricks until about the 2-hour mark of the game, which was very frustrating, as all the good stuff was at the end. Stats increase by doing daily challenges set by sponsors, and you can also visit skate, clothes, accessory, tattoo, and barbershops to customize your look. I found it really annoying that I had to go to a sponsor, accept the challenges, and perform them in order to increase my stats. Sometimes I'd forget what I had to do, and then I had to go back to the store to see what I missed. Underground 1 and 2 did this better by naturally letting you upgrade stats depending on the maneuvers you pulled, which I wish that they continued with American Wasteland. You can also ride the bus to fast travel to unlocked areas, but in reTHAWed for some reason I was unable to get on the bus in Hollywood and Beverly Hills, despite being able to do this on the PS2 version. You can also fast travel from Skate Ranch to other areas in a pickup truck, but disappointingly you can't use it to go back to the ranch or any other area where you went to. And thankfully, you don't have to drive the vehicles, excluding a BMX bike, which is a huge relief. You can tag custom graphics on parts of the level and unlock different stencils after helping a tagger 3 times in each area. About 2/3 of the way into the story, you can get inspiration in certain spots and create your own trick. Despite its fun but tiresome destruction theme that the story went for, American Wasteland story mode felt like one big tutorial, as it literally pinpointed where you're supposed to perform a trick with very detailed markers, and the slow progress and unlocking abilities felt very tiring, and like I said before, it was very frustrating that you basically got everything unlocked at the end of the game. I think they were trying to cater to newcomers to the series, or maybe those who don't play skateboarding games, but may enjoy third-person action games, but for seasoned veterans like me, and likely you watching this video, it felt very hand-holdy even in normal difficulty, which I played the story on. For the last 2 videos, I made the spoiler alerts a bit too dramatic, so I'll just leave a timestamp here if you want to skip the story, even though the game is 20 years old at this point. So anyway, this is what happened. You pick one of 5 preset skaters before you head to Hollywood on a bus. Interestingly, they're all males. It kind of sucks that you can't use your own created skater in the story mode like other games. An aspiring actress named Kelly says hello on the bus from Kentucky to LA, and you admit to her that you're leaving for Hollywood to get away from your strict parents. You get mugged by thugs and have your stuff stolen after getting off the bus. A girl named Mindy stops by and gives you a run through about different stores you can buy stuff from, including a barbershop, clothes shop, and skate shop. And like I mentioned before, you can definitely see an influence from GTA San Andreas for the animations when you enter the stores. Mindy compliments your new look and says that you need to learn new skills in order to survive this very skater-friendly city. You learn some tricks from locals, and you confront one of the muggers who stole your bag by beating him in a skate contest and bashing him with your board. You know, typical conflict resolution skills. You get your bag back and admire Mindy's sketches, which she says will be in her zine called American Wasteland. With a bit of prehistoric intervention and the first of many instances of mass terrorism terrorism in an already stricken LA, the sheep protesters are moved along and the entrance to Beverly Hills opens. You're denied entry into the mysterious skate ranch, and with some help from a skate club gang member on how to perform new skills, as well as increasing your stats with more sponsor challenges, you pull off some gnarly tricks for Boone, Murphy, and Useless Dave, also known as Careless Dave in some markets. They say they'll speak to talented shut-in Iggy Van Zant at Skate Ranch to see if you can enter. At the ranch, Iggy tells you to get some wood to build a new ramp and walk his dog Sanchez as initiation into the ranch. And Iggy lets you stay. You also gain access to a truck to fast travel to unlocked parts of the map like the bus. Mindy shows you a concept of Skate Ranch that they can build, and the main aim of the story becomes finding parts around LA to scrap and utilize as parts to improve the ranch. Iggy teaches you how to bird slide, and the group find out that it was you that caused the dino stunt in Hollywood, and Useless Dave suggests stealing a statue for the ranch. Construction supervisor Joey B asks for $200 for the dino head, which you pay. The dino head is broken after trying to install it back at the ranch, but the group are happy as the split head is a great place to skate. The next item is the 69. Nice. Gas station sign at Beverly Hills. You test out the broken dino asset and then head to the gas station to get the sign. You stick a slap the loose sign and new skate bowls form from the damage. The group take the sign back to the ranch. You obtain other pieces of equipment around Beverly Hills and Hollywood to upgrade the ranch, and this is pretty much how some more of this story will play out. You stay in these 3 locations before heading to the next location, downtown, after a guy who's totally not a reference to a Michael Douglas film opens up access for you, aiding in the destruction of this very vibrant city. You obliterate downtown LA and collect more ranch items, and you head to the Am Jam at Van's skate park. There's a discrepancy with your entry, and you mock a noob who calls you out. You beat the noob at combos, and you're entered in place of them after they're injured from trying a combo. You pay the entry fee and are in the comp. You win the Am Jam and become sponsored and thank your group for the victory. Tony Hawk asks what trick you learned, and you reveal that Iggy taught it to you as you were presented with the trophy. Iggy is arrested back at the ranch after being in hiding until you revealed he still existed. You feel terrible about what happened, and Mindy comforts you. Mindy suggests befriending the Z-Boys to help bust Iggy out of jail. You head to Dogtown to meet them. You lose your shirt and shoes and perform some tricks and destroy a hotel, and you unlock Santa Monica. You're initiated into the group, and Day One Song appears. You out-flatland him and head to see Tony Alva, who is the leader of the group. You impress his offsiders, get more stuff for the ranch, and you meet Tony. He asks you to do some old-school flatland tricks before telling you that he and Iggy used to be friends and they used to skate Green Pipes Point, which got filled in. You tell him that Skate Ranch is Green Pipes Point and they can be dug up. Tony tells you to meet a guy named Mega at the oil rig to help you with the excavation. You buy an alien costume to scare off the Ferris wheel carny, and the destroyed wheel, which nearly kills a few riders, gives you access to a boat to get to Mega. You pay for the gas and you head to the oil rig to ask Mega to dig up Green Pipes Point. But first, you have to feed his pet shark by jumping over it, which in a way is kind of appropriate for this game and where the series ended up going to. You blow up the oil rig and Mega is happy to help. You grab some more pieces from the rig for Skate Ranch before heading to an underground pipeline to escape the safety regulators. You blast open a gasket and make your way back under the ocean to Santa Monica. You destroy more beautiful structures for the ranch as you go along. Mindy tells you that Boone got in a fight with the Black Widows, the most dangerous gang in LA.
Black Widows are the most dangerous gang in all of Los Angeles. Boone's really in trouble.
And you go rescue him by going through another loading screen, tunnel. They tell you to get a chest tattoo that represents their gang in Santa Monica, and you go see Hector to get into the Belmont Tunnel to East LA where Boone is being held. You need to prove yourself to the most dangerous gang in LA by doing very dangerous things, like manualing through flags in one combo, designing an all-city graffiti tag, and performing BMX tricks. Very scary. Hector is impressed and invites you to the skate shop. He tells you there's a turf war with a rival gang, and you need to settle it by tagging the all-city tag around downtown. You create your own graphic and you own 4 spots for the gang and you end the war. You pass the final test by doing dangerous BMX tricks and you become a Black Widow for life. You enter East LA and do what you do best. Destroy more infrastructure for the ranch and likely go on an FBI's most wanted list. Cholo gets you to grind Boone's pants that are stuck on a statue, and through a random series of events, Boone's cage is broken and you help free him and get a blood-soaked bed to sleep on back at the ranch, as well as some car radio parts that you steal from the gang. Mega tells you that someone is trying to use his crane. A construction worker goes to shut down the crane and you stop them before the dig can stop. You go to Hollywood to give a bag of money to Joey B, as everything is completely above board in this version of LA. Iggy calls you from jail and you feel bad about what happened. He says he'll get kicked out of the ranch ranch as he doesn't actually own the land because he doesn't have enough money to buy it. He adds that if the owner finds out about the snake run, they'll dig it out and make money off it. Green Pipes Point makes the news, and the landowner named Shapiro puts the land up for sale. You try and convince him not to do it, but it doesn't work and he drives off. Iggy is out of jail and is angry about being locked out of the ranch, and he punches you in the face. You and Mindy have an argument, and Useless Dave and Murphy suggest that pro skaters who are in LA should be approached to make a skateboarding video to sell to get enough money to buy the ranch. You convince Tony Hawk and other pro skaters to be part of it. Murphy says that a website has been set up for the video and that they have lots of pre-orders. You all suggest that you and the crew go to an abandoned casino to destroy it for the encore. Iggy forgives you for what happened and wants to tag along for this part of the video. You ask if Mindy is okay, and Iggy says that she's still a bit bummed about what you said. You grab more items for the ranch for the last time in this game at the casino, and the internet is happy to see Iggy in the video. Iggy earns enough money from the DVD sales to buy the ranch. You do a few more things for the video, and head to the ranch as you dodge police to get there. The DVDs sell out, and Iggy tells you that they bought the ranch, and a party is thrown to celebrate. You and Mindy literally kiss and make up, and the story ends. You unlock Lil Jon, Iggy, and Jason Ellis as playable characters in normal difficulty as the Wasteland video plays. In the post-credits scene, all the pro skaters in the game pull off tricks at the ranch as you and Mindy hang out. The ranch is now called the Green Pipes Point Skate Park, and you're free to complete any other missions and side quests that you might have missed if you choose to. As well as story mode, you can also play the traditional high score and free skate modes on levels you've unlocked in story mode. Classic mode returns to American Wasteland with a mix of Wasteland and older levels with classic goals such as skate and the secret tape among others, with unlockable classic levels to play as well as the bonus level The Ruins like I mentioned before. I didn't spend much time in this mode due to time constraints for the video's release. There was also a multiplayer mode with different modes including previous ones like Trick Attack and Score Challenge, as well as new ones like Pot of Gold, which is like King of the Hill but with a pot of gold, like the name suggests. Creator Skater, Park, Graphic, and Trick all appear under the Creator Modes option in the game. Creator Goal no longer appears in this mode, which makes sense as they're now called missions rather than goals. And like previous games, at the time you could upload a picture of your face for use for your created skater, and for the PS2 version, it allowed you to play created parks online with others, which back in 2004 would have been pretty mind-blowing. Most pro skaters from previous titles return here, with the inclusion of Ryan Sheckler in the main roster after being unlockable in Underground 2. Daewon Song, Rick Thorne, Tony Trujillo, and Stevie Williams all make their debuts in the series. There are too many unlockable characters to mention, but standouts include Green Day lead singer Billy Joe Armstrong, as well as supporting characters like Mindy, Iggy, and the other trio. American Wasteland's soundtrack is comprised of original songs, as well as punk and hardcore covers performed by then-contemporary punk-based bands. Standout originals include Holiday by Green Day, which is played after you win the Am Jam, Rise Above by Black Flag, Filthy Gorgeous by Scissor Sisters, and Iron Tusk by Mastodon. Standout covers include Search and Destroy by Emmanuel, originally performed by Iggy and the Stooges, Ever Fallen in Love by Thursday, originally by the Buzzcocks, and Sonic Reducer by Saves the Day, originally performed by the Dead Boys. Interestingly, the original by the Dead Boys was in the Underground 2 soundtrack. Overall, the soundtrack is much more narrower than previous installments, but it definitely fits the California vibe the game was going for. The voice acting is generally good, and there are standout performances from Cree Summer, who voiced Mindy, and Gregory Sims, who voiced Iggy. Sometimes voiceovers from my characters or others didn't play in the PS2 and reTHAWed versions, and the flow of pre- and post-mission cutscenes would be killed when this happens. Otherwise, the voice quality is on par with the Underground series. Sound effects for things like grinding and landing tricks still sound great like they always do. Despite being an open world of sorts to the series, as well as the introduction of many other maneuvers you could pull off for combos, Tony Hawk's American Wasteland is a competent installment in the Tony Hawk's franchise. It was the beginning of the end for the series, and the cracks began to appear, at least until 2020 when 1 and 2 Remastered was released. And it only got worse for the series up until Pro Skater 5, which almost killed it entirely. The Tony Hawk's community is divided as to whether American Wasteland was the last great Tony Hawk's game or the first bad one. But in my opinion, it leans more towards the former. drama, especially after I replayed the story mode and rethawed with much better visuals, performance, and controls compared to the PS2. I would not recommend the PS2 version due to technical and performance issues that plagued my experience, and which was the reason why I could not release this retrospective earlier than I did. And I would recommend picking up either the 360 version if you're happy to pay out the nose for it, or the free modded PC version to play. For reTHAWed, it adds all the American Wasteland content, plus more levels, skaters, and features from other games in the series. So for the PS2 version, it does not hold up at all, but for reTHAWed, it absolutely does. The gameplay overall is mostly solid, but things like parkour and BMX were interesting, but not engaging enough to do outside of missions where they were necessary to complete the story. The story itself is a somewhat fun but tiresome one, full of destruction and chaos that we've seen in previous installments, but with more of a positive spirit compared to the downright nastiness that defined the previous game's story. Not being able to do things like special tricks until at least 2/3 of the way through the story really put a dampener on the experience. The voice acting for Mindy and Iggy was terrific, and the soundtrack was more narrow but fitting of the sunny California vibe that the game was going for. You can head to the 10K Rising Discord where you can find where to get reTHAWed for your PC for free. I'll leave a link in the description. The Xbox 360 version of the game is very expensive secondhand at the moment, as it was revealed that copies of the game can be used to enable a hacking exploit for homebrew software on the console. So overall, I would recommend reTHAWed if you have a PC in terms of cost and playability in the modern era. If you made it to the end of this, thank you so much for watching. What do you think of Tony Hawk's American Wasteland? Do you agree or disagree with anything I said? What are your opinions on the original game? Do you hope to see an American Wasteland remake down the line? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching my series of retrospectives on some Tony Hawk's games. And if you'd like to see retrospectives on other Tony Hawk's games like Project 8, Proving Ground, or any others in the future, please let me know. I will start a skate retrospective series very soon, as well as one for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 Remastered just before 3 and 4 Remastered are released. Be sure to like this video, share it with those who may enjoy this kind of content, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any extreme and non-extreme sports gaming content. My name is OneHip. You have a good one. Bye!